Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 5 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. Make sure to follow us on your podcasting platform of choice, and if you're watching and listening on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. Alright, on to today's stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from MD Lapla. Boss wants more words on the comment for each ticket solved. Engineer writes a novel. I've been working on IT for around 25 to 26 years now. Different companies, but you see quite a bit of malicious compliance in the IT world. Back in 2005-2006, I worked for a telephone company, a huge one that had the typical Jira-like bug reporting tool for one of its most complicated and convoluted softwares. The software was so complex, so legacy, that even the department team in-house was afraid to do changes in it. Some updates in the past did backfire spectacularly more than once, so even the tiniest update to that software had to take weeks of analysis before taking place. In that dev team worked 3 of my friends from college. I worked on another one that had an easier life. One of my guys at that team was Badu. To portrait Badu accurately, imagine that guy that's always planning innocent pranks, that you never know if he's for real or if he's faking, because he's always saying the most shocking things just for the lulz. Knows a little bit of magic, uses it to prank, loves football as well. He used to be good at his job, but he's also quite a bit tired of it, procrastinating, and generally not putting too much effort in on it. The fact that he's part of that software dev team doesn't help. It's not a fast-paced environment, and people get bored by the inaction. So since he's bored, he plays pranks, like connecting a second wireless mouse controller to the PC of a colleague to randomly move the mouse and have him call tech support because his mouse misbehaves, but do absolutely nothing with the mouse when tech support comes. The guy being the target of the prank ended up calling tech support 4 times before being told what was going on. The team once a week also books a windowless meeting room for an hour, so 3 of them can take a nap while the 4th one guards against someone finding out. Who's the guard rotates each week. The requests for update Badu gets are almost always something in this style. This report indicates that X value is 25 when it should be 27, please fix. Each request typically comes from a different area, but each area sends a couple of requests probably once a month. But Badu knows that the algorithm doing that calculation is extremely complex. Reports are baked on a monthly basis on batch processes that can take hours. Testing this is extremely painful also, so he updates the end value on the report, where it was 25, now is 27. Easy peasy, see you next month. He gets probably like 10 to 15 of these requests per day. Badu updates the bug tool ticket stating on the comment field something like end value verified and corrected and moves on. New boss comes to that dev team from another team on the company. He's well known around the company as being quite dense. He instantly clashes with the team. He thinks quantity equals quality and loves to look into numbers. He comes from the database world, so he's constantly using queries to gather information. He also thinks that each ticket solved is because the underlying condition is being solved. He knows nothing about the complexity of the system. He just thinks that the team is really good at identifying causes and solving them fast. Glorified pencil pusher. He gathers the team and says that he did a query and found out that the comments being put into the bug tool are really short, like less than 50 characters long, and that is not long enough to explain what has been done to solve the incident. The whole team explains that what's being put into the comment field is more than enough. He says that comments should, at least, have 1,000 characters. It's the minimum he'll accept. He says that having comments with less than 1,000 characters will impact his valuation of the work being done. Badu, being the devious character he is, decides to complain, especially since he knows that the boss would never open the bug tool. He loves his databases. First ticket comes in, this value is this, should be that. He updates the value, writes the same comment he always does, end value verified and corrected, and then, taking advantage of the fact that the comment field has format capabilities, what you see is what you get type of editor, copies and pastes the chronicle from the latest football match into the field, changes the color to white and the font size to 1 so it can't be seen against the background on the tool, and closes the ticket. If you're the original ticket poster, That comment field is read only, so unless someone selects and highlights the comment, they won't know that something else is there. Next ticket comes, does the same, but writes a rant about some stupid thing. Then on the next ticket, he just keeps pushing random keys and the spacebar until the character count reaches 1000. He gets bored doing this, so he becomes more ingenious and inventive by the ticket. Somewhere, hidden in that bug tool comment section, a complete original Badoo novel, separated in small chapters, ends up being written that no one knows about, outside of a few of us that have lunch with Badoo and the team. Boss comes a month after and says to Badoo, "I've noticed that the size of your comments has gone up last month. You're averaging well over 1,000 characters per ticket. Keep it up." Badoo, plus all my other friends and myself, left the company to greener pastures a year later. I still talk daily with Badoo and people from that team. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Aldwin Lagaya. It says, "Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but the new boss is supposed to be a database guy, but doesn't look at the comments. The font size and color doesn't matter. When you queried the database, it would show the full text." OP responded and said, he was more interested in the amount of characters, something like select length comment text from comments. Another user down below called Feuerkopf said, so your friend decides to hardcode exceptions rather than address the underlying issue, and when a manager wants more detailed comments to catch that exact type of behavior, he finds a way to cheat. Wouldn't it be more honest just to write, "In order to genuinely fix that, I need about 15 man hours. Please advise on how to proceed"? You know, I kind of agree with the second commenter in this one because they were just finding a way around what they were doing. They weren't fixing the actual problem. Just changing that end character, well, doesn't really fix the issue. It means that every time they run that specific report, they're always going to come up with the wrong information because they didn't fix the underlying issue. So I guess they kind of have a point here. They were skirting around what the boss wanted to be done, and if they'd done what the boss said, put the hours in, they could have made it so they would never have to fix it again. This story comes to us from Green Lily 58. You want to know what I'm doing? So this recent mail sent out to US government employees sent me on a trip down memory lane. Back in 2000, I was in an apprenticeship, which in my country lasts 2.5 to 3 years. About a year in, I got overwhelmed since all of my coworkers dropped work on me. My boss then put in 2 rules. 1, everything had to go through my instructor before I did anything. 2, I had to compile a list of what I did every day and how long it took me. While I enjoyed number 1, I thought number 2 was a bit too much, so I asked if they really meant everything I did. My boss said yes. So the first mail she got looked like this. 1, turning on lights, 3 minutes. 2, starting computer, 1 minute. 3, turning on printer and other machines, 2 minutes. 4, preparing coffee maker, 3 minutes. 5, walking between offices in total, 10 minutes, etc. Every single thing I did except the bathroom breaks were listed, and the last was how long it took to write the mail. The next day, she asked me to limit it to the most important tasks, which I had to do for the rest of my time there, even after the boss changed. But they also made sure to give me exact instruction, because when they didn't, well... Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Trip6i6x. It says, not detailed enough. You should have listed the specific other machines you turn on, along with times for them, and absolutely also listed bathroom breaks, along with whether you pooped or just peed. This information is vital for management. Don't leave it out. Another commenter down below called Coder Joe 1 said, I don't mind accounting for my time as long as they're realistic about the granularity of it. OP responded and said, yeah, but it was a waste of time, especially since I already had to fill out a mandatory weekly report for the Chamber of Commerce, which in my country monitors office apprenticeships that my boss had to sign off. We've seen stories like this on Malicious Compliance so many times now where people had to document things and they went into severe details. OP on this one sounds like they just followed the rules. They didn't bring it down to the little itty bitty tasks and make sure that all of that was written down. So yes, I agree with the commenter. Make sure your bathroom breaks are recorded as well. I don't think you need to tell them what you did in there, but how much time you spent there, sure. How much time you spent walking to the bathroom. How much time you spent walking back from the bathroom. Break it down completely. Make sure that doing that log takes a good quarter of your day. then they might see that it doesn't need to be done. This story comes to us from Scissorfella. Turn my camera on? Fine. In 2021, I was working on a project with this manager called Mark, who was a real stickler for the rules. He was the kind of dude who wouldn't allow chit-chat in his team and loved an office day more than anything, despite the fact that our team was external and all of us lived crazy far away. I've got a chronic disease which, at the time, was kept relatively under control with infusions at the hospital every few weeks. Seeing as Mark didn't want to chit-chat, he wasn't aware that I live with this disease. One day, I was in the hospital working from the bed with a cannula in one arm. We had our daily meeting planned, and I figured it would be fine to call in without my camera, as they could still hear me just fine, and I didn't want to freak anyone out with the infusion line in the picture and whatnot. I get onto the call, and Mark immediately comments that he can't see my face. I tell him that I've not got my camera on today, and don't elaborate, figuring that it's a 15-minute call, and I could just as easily be driving or something. Mark responds by asking me to stay back on the call after we finish. I comply, and he chews me out for not turning on my camera, saying that it's a rule, and that we all need to show our faces. Fine. I turn on my camera and watch his face go from red to white as he sees me in what is very clearly a hospital room. I tell him I'm uncomfortable being on camera while I'm getting treatment, also not elaborating on what it's for. His sweaty little face still brings me joy. It was a really nice moment to bask in, and I think about it pretty often when I get managers who like rules just a little too much. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Jay Stone. It says, the only way that could have been better is if you turned it on in the meeting and caused him to get sweaty-faced in front of everybody on the call. OP responded and said, ha ha ha, darn, he would have deserved that too. Another commenter down below called Another Crap Historian said, any manager who always thinks that everyone on their team is trying to get one over on them needs retraining. These aren't children, and you're not daddy. Trust the people you work with. I can completely see this one from both sides of the story. I know OP didn't want to turn on their camera so that they wouldn't have to show that they were in a hospital room and have to give an explanation while there were a whole bunch of other people in the meeting. So that makes sense. But I do feel like OP could have handled it a little bit differently. They could have said something to the boss like, hey, I can't be on camera today, and if you'd like to discuss that after the meeting, by all means, we can do that. I wouldn't have just said, I'm not turning on my camera today, especially if it's something that's required for your meetings. So I can see the point of view of the boss going, this isn't how we do meetings here. You're supposed to have your camera on. And they berated you at the end because you didn't, but you didn't give them any clear explanation or tell them that I'll give you an explanation later. So again, I can see both sides of this one, but I'd love to know what you guys think. So if you're on YouTube, make sure you comment down below. And if you're on Spotify, you can comment on this one there as well, and let me know what you think. This story comes to us from Chickenpox Party. Constituent complies with Compelled Speech is Not Free Speech Act bill while testifying before legislature committee. Not sure if I should just post the article or relay the info in it, but I'm trying to actually, non-maliciously, follow the rules here. So I'll just type the story myself. Anyways, I thought this was a prime example of malicious compliance. Basically, the Wyoming legislature recently passed an act which says no state employee can be compelled or required to use someone else's preferred pronouns. The act, SF-77, is called the Compelled Speech is Not Free Speech Act. A constituent was testifying before the committee, which was meeting to discuss the What is a Woman Act, another ridiculous piece of legislature with a ridiculous name. The constituent, named Britt, is called on to speak by Senator Tim French, a Republican who voted yes on the aforementioned SF-77. He is the chairman of this committee, and yes, he's a man who is cisgender. Britt says, "Thank you, Madam Chairman," as the Senate overwhelmingly voted, before she is cut off by Senator French, who does exactly what we hope, corrects her, and asserts that he would prefer to be called Mr. Chairman or Chairman French. She of course reminds him of the recent act that was just passed, saying that she cannot be compelled to refer to him by his preferred pronouns or titles. Obviously, Mrs. French and other GOP lawmakers had intended for the spirit of this law to be an affront to trans people, and had hoped and expected that it would only be used to support disrespecting others. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called MBiddy828. It says, "There were a few family gatherings this year about this, Why are pronouns such a big deal? People are too sensitive these days. It's just words. So I would start calling my uncles ladies, and all they would do is glare. OP responded and said, and the thing is, pronouns truly are not a big deal. It's a minuscule request that costs nothing to oblige. If someone refuses to oblige, they're just being rude, and that's that. No one is going to jail, being fined, or prosecuted whatsoever over pronouns. The only ones who really feel like it's a big deal are the ones spending all this time and effort passing these lame, petty laws that protect them from obliging this mundane request. Does anybody else think that there's not enough SPF 50 on the planet for that burn? I mean, come on. My whole view on the pronoun things is it's all about respect. If you want to identify as something and you want to be called that, then I'm going to call you that because that's what you want. Because I respect you and the way you want to live your life. There's just way too many people out there who are very concerned over how other people live their lives, when in all honesty, other people's lives don't have much effect on ours, and a little bit of respect goes a long way. This story comes to us from Red Girl. Thanks for my master's degree. I used to work for a manager who was just terrible. All she was good for was approving time off. She spent most of her work time planning her vacations, delegating her actual work, and taking credit for her employees' work. And she would travel on the company dime to seminars and conferences and come back with no work-related information to share, but tons of stories about her work trip. She also did not believe in developing her staff. Opportunity for additional training, education, or certifications? Not for us. But she would go out of her way to take those opportunities for herself, and then give up on them as soon as she realized she would have to do the work. I had requested some in-house training that would have opened up some career opportunities for me, and she kept making excuses for why I couldn't get the trainings. It's not in the budget, we can't spare you, etc. Because she was my manager, it was completely up to her to approve it. Well, the training was $1,500, and it included the tuition, the books, and the certification testing. I finally gave up on asking and decided to apply to a graduate program in a related field to the training I wanted. Because tuition reimbursement was a company benefit and didn't require manager approval, I got accepted and submitted my tuition reimbursement to the company for the following 2 years. In the end, the company ended up paying for my graduate degree to the tune of $12,000, all because my crappy boss wouldn't approve in-house training for $1,500. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called ItchyAppeal9020. It says, not excusing your manager, but I could see something like that happening at my company. Actually, I would encourage employees to take advantage of the corporate benefits. I often don't have room in my baseline budget for my employees to take training, but the cost of enterprise-wide programs doesn't hit my budget at all. Another commenter down below called Rather Be Warm says, sometimes management just doesn't see what the additional training or degree will bring. I worked for a company that would reimburse tuition for certain degrees. I was an IT manager with an undergrad in business. My job became more of managing costs, projects, software and hardware, purchases, and maintenance. So I went for my MBA. I had to fight to get a 50% reimbursement. A friend who was an integrated circuit designer and manager had a BS and MS, EE, and MBA, and he wanted to get a master's in German. The company refused. He gave all the application notes and patents he'd been working on with our German subsidiary back to his manager and said, good luck. They eventually sent him to Germany to manage the subsidiary for 2 years. I can't say this enough, but make sure you know what your company is offering because, as we saw in this story, OP took advantage of a program that the company was offering that most people there probably didn't know about. And if you can get better education and have your company pay for it, it might help you out, not just in that company itself, but in any other company that you decide to apply for in the future. Get as much as you can out of your current employer. Get them to pay for education if it's something they normally do. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and give us a rating on your podcasting platform of choice. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.